Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to do something new on the channel. I want to take a look at Wolverine's skill rotation, and I want to particularly focus on it in Extreme Alliance Battle for Combat Hero Day. Now, this is going to serve a dual purpose. On the one hand, it is going to give you guys insight into how you should play Wolverine in Extreme Alliance Battle if you want to try and improve your score. I'm going to do a breakdown of my strategy for what skills I use in what order to try and maximize his DPS, kill the Frost Beast's minions, and do the most damage to the Frost Beast. But in addition, even if you don't use Wolverine for Extreme Alliance Battle, you will have a more robust understanding of the character's skills, how they function, and where you can use them in different game modes outside of Extreme Alliance Battle based on the analysis that I'm going to give you in this video. So if you guys like this kind of content, I can repeat it for other characters in the future. Although the framework is around Extreme Alliance Battle, you can take all of these tips that I'm going to show you and apply them somewhere else. It's just useful to use Extreme Alliance Battle because enemies will continue to respawn, dogs will bark, and in Wolverine's case at least, he basically can't die and he won't get snared because of my obelisk, so I can very freely run around the arena, waste time, and just refresh this and show you guys basically as many times as I want. So first up, you might ask yourself, why am I waiting on this match? Well, if you don't know already, I'll debunk it one more time for you. You never want to start the Extreme Alliance Battle by pressing the screen or clicking or whatever, however you do it, as soon as you see the Frost Beast. You want to wait, because what that's going to do behind the scenes is going to spawn all of the minions around the Frost Beast, and that'll allow you to wipe out the first wave faster. One of the ways that your score will rise or fall over the course of 3 minutes is if you kill fewer mobs, you'll have fewer waves that you get through, and each wave gives substantially more points than the last wave. So if you can clear through waves faster by using 1 or 2 skills to wipe all the mobs out quickly, if you don't leave any stragglers behind, you'll get to higher waves, maybe wave 20 of the Ultron minions, maybe wave 25, and that will be the difference between potentially a good score and a great score. So even if you're doing all the steps right and you're following all the skill animations and rotations, you may still be failing to emulate or reproduce my scores or another person's scores because you're not getting as high as you could on the possible waves. But that's just one small part of it, so let's jump in and see what we're getting. So the first thing you want to do with most of these stages is you want to switch to a buffable character, pass the buff over, and then switch to your main DPS. Now here we can see at the top right corner, or the top left corner, excuse me, we have a custom gear icon that's grayed out. This custom gear icon is the one that's going to increase Logan's damage, and that's the one we want to see with the blue text. You're going to see the blue text now pretty much as soon as I hit the Frost Beast. So we're going to hit him with the 4th skill. We see the blue, and then we trigger immediately into the 5th skill, and that's going to give us about 20,000 points on our 5th skill or 4 to 5 skill rotation. In addition, on the upper right hand side, you can see the meteor evasion point. You want that to go up or flash for as long as possible. The longer it's up, the more damage and the more points you're going to do to the Frost Beast, and the more points you're going to get back in return for each of your rotations. Right now I'm just doing the 4th and the 5th skill so you guys can get a feel for how they look. The 4th skill has an iframe at the beginning, so I can transition from the 4th skill into the 5th skill without actually coming out of an iframe and without getting hit, but more importantly without getting hit by any of the meteors, because if I reset my meter on the right hand side, then I'm going to get fewer points overall. So dodging the meteors and timing iframes and chaining iframes is actually a really important part of any character's skill rotation because it keeps you safe. We're going to do it again here, but basically as soon as Logan finishes his uppercut, you want to press the 5th skill so that you can trigger it and so that you don't lose this chain. The other iframe that Logan has, aside from the beginning of his 4th skill and the entirety of his 5th skill, see I was a bit slow there, is his 2nd skill. His 2nd skill is an iframe all the way through until the end. But you have to be careful because when Logan stops moving, the iframe stops as well. And there's a bit of a pause in between Logan stopping the iframe and you being able to move again. So unless you chain his 2nd skill into another skill, you're actually going to get hit by whatever meteor is sitting there. In addition, with basically all of Logan's skills, they do propel you in the way of the enemy. So if I target the Frost Beast with any of Logan's skills, he's going to run at the Frost Beast. That usually is good because it can position you for obelisks and other kind of procs, but it can be bad if there is a meteor that's about to fall near the Frost Beast, because you can basically unintentionally run into a meteor that'll reset your meteor evasion point, meter, and then that will reduce in or result in a reduced score. So you do need to keep that in mind where the meteors are going, both near you and away from you. We can see here there's one right behind the Frost Beast. If I had lunged into it a little bit sooner, it would have reduced my score by resetting my meter. Now, aside from Logan's 4th, 5th, and 2nd skills, you do have his 1st and 3rd skills that you can use that don't have iframes, but that do pack both good damage in terms of their output and also mobility. So his 1st skill is actually quite useful, especially in Extreme Alliance battle. The 1st skill is just a lunge. It lunges forward, not in that case, but in most cases it will lunge forward and route you from where you are to where you're going. So as you can see there, I can actually position myself so that a meteor is going to hit me, and then I can dodge that meteor by lunging into the Frost Beast. So here I'll stand here and I'll lunge away from the meteor, and I'll basically dodge it incidentally just by using that 1st skill. In addition, you can see sometimes Logan decides to actually go through his intended target to the other side if the skill ends up animating to the end. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes I find that the Frost Beast, especially the middle part of the Frost Beast, is a bit too thick for Logan to get through, and he actually just stays on one side. That can get you hit by inadvertent meteors, but if it doesn't, you'll end up nicely on the other side, which shouldn't have any meteors or enemies behind it. So the 1st skill is actually quite useful, and it's nice to chain into other skills when you have the opportunity, but keep in mind it's not an iframe at all. So as you can see, getting hit by meteors is quite easy while you're using that skill. We're going to see it here one more time. Let's say there's a meteor in the way and I just get out of the way. The 3rd skill is pretty similar in that Logan rushes forward. The only difference is that he doesn't jump, he just starts slashing. The cool thing is, to all the minions, he'll basically just dice through them unless you're on one of the last waves. So you can also use the 3rd skill as a motorcycle and basically drive really quickly down the street through all the mobs so that you don't get hit by any errant meteors. So right there, I dodged a bunch of meteors, except at the end, by using his 3rd skill in an offensive way. But now you could be asking yourself, how am I supposed to chain all of these skills coherently in order to increase my Extreme Alliance battle score? Well, we're going to go through a rotation now. So after you've switched characters, buffed up, and then passed that buff over to Wolverine, you're going to open the fight with your 4th and 5th skill. You're going to cancel the 4th skill into the 5th skill, because most of the time your damage proc on your obelisk is going to trigger on the 4th skill, and then you'll be able to utilize the 5th skill with maximum efficiency. But after you've done that, you're going to be faced with a couple of choices as to what your next move is. Your next move could be one of two things. You could start dodging meteors and waiting for the 5th and 4th skills to come off cooldown, at which point you could just trigger it again and repeat that pattern over and over again, trying to line up the proc nicely with that 5th skill, because as we know, his 5th skill is the one that does the most damage, as it is for most characters in the game. Sharon Rogers, I'm looking at you. But this is definitely not the ideal way to score points, because you're wasting a lot of time and you're losing a lot of potential damage in between the 5th skill happening and the 5th skill coming off cooldown. Now I can get a respectable score using this method, and I can actually practice my meteor dodging and my obelisk proc timing quite well, although it didn't work out so well there. But this is definitely not the best way to score the maximum number of points in a match. Another thing you can do is you can rotate through your skills pretty aggressively while you're waiting. The only thing you need to be careful of is in the left-hand corner, you'll see there's a man with a yellow kind of aura around him. I'm going to get hit by a meteor to show you guys. And this yellow man with the aura is the adds effect on hit effect. And you can see here the next effect activates after 5 hits. I have 4 hits. If I get hit again, guess what's going to happen? Wolverine is going to get... well, it needs to happen. He gets stunned. As you can see there, I have the little stars above my head, and I actually ended up dying because I got stunned. So 5 meteors in about 10 seconds will, like 10 seconds refreshing every time you get hit by a meteor, so it could be up to 50 seconds before you actually get stunned if you keep getting hit on the last second, 1 through 5, and that will really severely hamper your score. Obviously, you don't get stunned until that 5th hit, but after that, you're stunned for, I think, 3 seconds, and in the meantime, you can die. In the meantime, you won't be doing any damage. So you really want to avoid letting that meter stack up to 5, because it is extremely detrimental to your score. So if you see it nearing 5, you should probably be less aggressive in your rotation. You should probably take some evasive maneuvers to dodge some of the meteors, as I'm doing now with Warwolf, and you want to ensure that that meteor goes away so that you can continue being aggressive and DPSing or damaging the Frost Beast and improving your score, or killing the boss if it happens to have a stun mechanic on that stage, if it's not Extreme Alliance Battle, but it's something else that's similar in nature. So we've established that using the 4th skill and canceling it into the 5th skill is the best way to time your obelisk proc with your 5th skill to ensure you do the most damage and you get the highest number of points. You kill the world boss, ultimate boss faster, and you get that high ranking score on the leaderboard and stuff like that. But you still need to do something in between so that you can make up the extra damage that you're missing out otherwise. So you can also just use the 2nd skill and the 1st skill to rotate around and dodge until you're back on the 4th and 5th skill. Because the 5th skill actually has quite a low cooldown in between casts, you do need to wait an extra second to a second and a half after it comes off of cooldown, because if you rotate into it immediately, you will actually be ahead of your damage proc like I am now, and you won't get maximum damage. But one pretty good strategy is to just use the 2nd skill iframe and the 1st skill movement to get out of the way, but also to deal damage to the Frost Beast and dodge the meteors. But as you can see, it's definitely not a perfect algorithm or a perfect match, because you can, inadvertently get thrown into the way of meteors at the end of those skills, whether it's 2 or 1, and then you will end up resetting your meter. But this is one strategy you can employ to ensure that you do get a high score. If you want to be more aggressive and you don't care about hitting the meteors and resetting your dodge score because you have an obelisk that has stun immune, or because you want to live life very dangerously, then you can basically rotate through all of Logan's skills in between. In that situation, I would recommend the following rotation. I would start with the 4, cancel it into the 5, imagining that this was in time with my proc. Then I would do the 3rd skill until I see a meteor, and then I would do the 2nd skill to avoid that meteor. Then doing the 1st skill, excuse me, then the 4th skill, then the 5th skill, like that. It looks a little bit smoother when I'm doing it in real time, but basically the 3rd skill is used until you see a meteor or until you can use the 2nd skill, and then you use that 2nd skill iframe to avoid kind of defensively. So you use the 3rd skill, then you follow that up into the 2nd skill. You can try to position Logan after the 2nd skill finishes so that he lands on the right or left side of the Frost Beast, but you're basically using that 2nd skill as an iframe to protect you, because the 3rd skill leaves you very vulnerable to damage. But this is one of the more aggressive strategies, and it doesn't always work, as you can see there, especially if there's a cluster of meteors that happen to spawn around you. It really leaves you vulnerable to getting hit. So I don't necessarily recommend this strategy, but it is one that you can employ, especially in other game modes, to get maximum damage, because despite how vulnerable it leaves Logan, the 3rd skill actually deals incredible damage, and you will see a bump up in your score if you do incorporate that attack into your rhythm, especially if you're already really bad at dodging meteors in the first place. So there you have the rotation and the breakdown of Wolverine's skills 1 through 5. I hope this has been helpful and insightful for you to better understand the character, which skills function in which way, and how you can combine them in different ways and different variations to give yourself the best possible results. If you guys like this video, let me know in the comment section why. If you didn't, that's okay. Also, let me know in the comment section why it didn't work for you or how I could improve it. And of course, guys, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.